Hey everyone, I've been asked by some people to show kind of how we do a trade show like this as a setup. It has some unique pieces to it, unlike you might do at a regular show, but it might give some insight in how I present a show and how I put it together to help you do your shows. So first we're going to start here at the control station, and at the trade show we usually try and show as many options as possible. So in this case I have an MA, I also have MIDI controllers. It's kind of one of those like, what's your favorite flavor of button? Just to kind of show like, yes, you can run it from a console. Yes, you can run it from a MIDI controller. Yes, like the show here, mouse and keyboard timeline kind of thing. So we like to do that. In this show we have 36 lasers, I think. And so in this kind of size of space, it's kind of difficult sometimes to be able to do a setup that works. So in this case, we kind of focused on layers. We have a bottom layer with our beam brush. We have a middle layer, a lower layer again with our Unity lasers, then we have our spectrums, club maxes, and then some audience scanning up top. So we kind of have to think about layers and how they're going to cross. So in this case we have kind of the Unities and the club maxes going straight out to kind of go around the user. Then we have the audience scanners coming down and our beam brush going up, so we kind of create this cross, and then a straight out from our spectrums. So when you think about a show like this, you want to think about your layers, you want to think about how they're going to cross and how they're going to view in the audience. If you want to come look at our zone file really fast, I would be absolutely out of my mind to make a separate zone, multiple zones for each laser, so we only have one zone per laser, and you can kind of see how we might do that. In this case, I've named them kind of what they are, graphics, then we have our audience scanning fixtures, our Club Max row, there's an Atom 42 in there, a couple of our spectrums. We kind of go top to bottom, left to right. That makes sense for me. Some people don't do it that way. And some people also may use like straight up like scanner one main or whatever. But for a show this big with this many layers, I try and kind of give it as many numbers as I kind of give them names that are colloquial, they're nice and easy to understand. And if anyone needs to look at it or change the zone or fix it, let's say I get, I fell off a bus yesterday and someone else needs to come in and fix it. It'll be easy for them to pick that up from where they go. The show itself is being programmed inside the timeline. We're actually running everything out of it, haze, lighting, video on the video wall, all that sort of stuff's running from Beyond, which allows us to do a few cool things like laser mapping things on the video wall. We're doing like video overlay and doing all that kind of stuff. The actual rig is running on a new front of house kind of rack that we built. And we'll show you that when we get in the studio and some videos coming soon. But basically we have ourselves a nice rack mount computer. Gives us all the options we could ever need for there. We have a whole bunch of network ports on it. I think there's 4 10 gig Ethernets plus 2 fibers on there. So whatever we may need to do. So like in this case, we have MA running on the same computer, but for MA to send SACN to Beyond, for instance, we need to kind of come out one port, go into a switch and come back. So we do our own loopback. That gives us options when we have so many ports on the computer. We also have things like a timecode device. We have an FP3 with a license on it in the rack, and other things like that, so that we can have this rig. A nice computer like that allows us to run with tons of headroom, so it doesn't really matter what we're doing. We're always going to be good to go. So now let's go up towards the lasers and show you how you keep it safe in a show like this, because it is very tight. All right, so now that we're up here, the first thing you're gonna notice is that we have another e-stop up here. Depending on where people are in the booth, you need to have access to another e-stop in this case, in case someone decides to get a little too close. To kind of encourage people to get not too close, we have these barricades here, and this is how you can like use creative design to kind of keep people away from the lasers to get a good separation distance. We ran out of merch, but these were holding merch, and so it kind of gives us a good barrier. Now the other thing is, we're shooting a lot of laser power on the inside of this wall here. So if you come on over here and I pull this back, you'll see we put basically aluminum sheeting with high temp paint on it so that it blocks all the lasers and keeps us nice and safe. Keeps them away from people. You can't put that on drape, it's gonna burn a hole and it's gonna melt. Now when it talks about zoning, we really wanna be smart about where we go because if you go too steep on a laser, it's not gonna look as bright. So in order to make it look nice and good, we have to keep that in mind. How much angle are you gonna have in an attack? So the beam brushes, because we soften them anyway, I decided that would be fine to put on the bottom and go up. Same with the Epic, we kind of just didn't want to lift it all the way. So we kind of just got to think about those angles as we go and get the best brightness out of it. So now let's go behind the back and look at the distro and the rack and see how we wire it all up. So now we're behind the booth and you can see we have our setup here. So if you come on over first, First, we have our main show rack, and this is what we use in our studio. It has networking, it has some power distribution, and what we do is we have some gear in the front, some gear in the back. So this is our e-stop splitter. This is running all of our e-stop. We have some power splits out that are in the distro, our DMX and our whatnots coming out of here. And these are our 2 e-stop buttons in the 2 locations, so any of them can shut the show off if they need to. We use looms a lot. So in this case, we've built ourselves we have power, we have network, and we have our e-stop lines. We build these into single cables that are tied together. It really helps keep the show a lot cleaner, and it makes the run a lot faster. And then if we're running it into our upper distro, we just run a True 1, which allows us to kind of put them together like this, nice and easily. And then we'll run it into our distro. So in this case, we have one 100 amp 3-phase service, plus and I can never remember which one it is, like L13, 60, I don't know what it is, but the 60 amp kind of 120. So we have 6 circuits on the bottom here. So if we go on the front of this rack, so we rented the video all this time, so the video's running here, and then on the front of our rack here, we have our audio mixer for our audio. We have a couple network switches, and plus, and then we have our ArtNet node, and we have our distro for that other service. So we have a good number of circuits, and we're able to do what we need to do. From there, we just run those looms out to each set of lasers, and so we usually do banks. So if you looked at the Club Maxes, you looked at the Unities, we had like 4 and 4. So we tied those 4 into one round, we just tied another 4, 4 and 4, and that gives us 4 circuits, 4 lines. It's easy to remember. So when you come back and look at the tags, you'll know exactly what you're looking at. Then we tie a couple of the big ones together, and we try and limit it so it's not more than 4 or 5 lasers in one line with the daisy chaining. Just for power and data, kind of makes it a little bit nicer. I think the biggest chain we have is all those beam brushes on the bottom, which is, it's 6 of them. I would try and not go over that. If I had to, I'd probably take that down from there. And I've just made a mess. But anyway, thanks for checking it out and seeing how we kind of do some stuff here. I know some people are always curious how other people do it, so we wanted to give you a look at that.